We're recording this show on November 5th, before the election. The election is kind of the elephant in the room, and certainly issues about immigrants have dominated the election. How did that play into what you were doing and the response to it?
So with the whole rhetoric or the anti-immigrant rhetoric that's been passed around from sort of both camps, not so much just one side or the other, has really shaped my involvement in this. Like I mentioned earlier, I have friends that are undocumented immigrants as well as documented immigrants, and I've never seen them as documented or undocumented. I've never looked at their legal status as a reason or why or not why to be friends with them. So that in itself has kind of brought my involvement in it. You turn on the TV and you see Donald Trump call Mexicans rapists and murderers, and or there's some of them are good people or bad hombres, or just the anti-immigration rhetoric that's being spewed out all across this country is an embarrassment, and it's really widening the solidarity gap between people of all races. So.
Yeah, and I also think that that part of the problem is that rhetoric sort of doesn't bring attention to the real issues that are happening, right? Mm-hmm. The real sort of like human aspect of what's happening. And so we don't hear about like reasons why they're coming, right?
Or the percentage of
exactly
immigrants who are women and children.
Yeah, and like the pull factors too, right? Like there's pull factors as well as push factors that don't get to be part of the story. What else doesn't kind of come into this the story that Americans hear is that that these are real people right behind it, and that when we hear stories about how they have decided to come, how particular, like we heard many stories about how particular women, men made the decision to come and to meet up with relatives, to meet up with boyfriends and with husbands, and brought their children with them, and in the process, some didn't make it, right? And so we hear about how it was that they died in the desert heat, in the desert cold at night, and what is being done by many different organizations to bring attention to their lives, right? To bring attention to what is done after they die, right? Well, like how do you investigate who that person was? And that's the work actually that some organizations are doing on a daily basis. There's some organizations going around the desert for like hours and hours to see if they find someone alive or dead. Mm-hmm. And so that is just not part of the story, right? And it needs to be said that this is sort of like a very inhumane way to be sort of like overlooking many policy issues.
Yeah, we often detach the policy from the person, and I think that's the aim for SOA Watch is to bridge those two. Like we can't group people, and we can't group people and forget the policy that shaping those people's lives. And I think that's what the anti-immigration rhetoric really does.
So where does the movement go from here? What are the next steps, or what's the ongoing movement?
So one of the things that happened was that one of the organizers for SOA Watch, there was a decision made to actually move to Nogales, right? To continue to build those ties of solidarity with all these organizations that are already working on many aspects of migration. And so that's going to continue to happen. I think that they're already kind of planning the next convergence. And I don't know if that's going to happen exactly in Nogales or somewhere else along the border, because these are things that are happening like, all across the long border, California, Arizona, New Mexico, all that. So I think that they're going to continue to do the daily work of bringing attention and bringing networks, like building networks. I think that's one of the beautiful things about SOA Watch, and how it's like young people that are leading this, right? It's like it's young organizers being part of SOA Watch that have thought this out, and that have begun to work on the networks, the networking. So,
Anything you want to say about next steps?
Well,
Where do you go with this?
it's a great question. So I am working on a few projects, a collaborative project with our group, my own individual project on the constitutionality of SB 1070. I'm also working on a project for my legal studies class, which goes to the laws and cites cases about the constitutionality of SB 1070. But what I'm really trying to bring out of all of this is, with my work with Professor Rodriguez and my group, is to bring out the human aspect of it, and then with my work in the legal studies research is to bring out the policy-based thing, and then I want to kind of merge both of those research projects to show how policy directly affects people and how people are directly affect the policy. So that's kind of where my next steps are in this.
yeah. And for me, I mean, I'd like to invite folks to go to the website caminominga.com to see what, the portraits, but also the stories, right? The oral interviews with many of these organizers around issues of migration and border issues. And to comment, right? And to get in contact too, to see if anyone wants to be more involved in this kind of thing.
So quickly, how can people be more involved?
I think that just sort of like maybe, to go to the website, and then also to contact me at prodriguez@ithaca.com. There's also my...
Ithaca.edu?
Oh, yeah, edu, sorry, ithaca.edu. So, I invite anyone to like continue these conversations.
I would also say reach out to your local representatives. I mean, that's where the policy comes from. It comes from the people, it comes from the constituents who want to make a change. So along with the activism work, it has to come with policy. So I'd say reach out to your local representatives, state and local, and let's try to mobilize.
Great. I've been talking with Theo Alexander and Patricia Rodriguez about their time at the Convergence at the Border. This has been DSA Presents. Thanks for watching.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.